Hello and welcome back to Advanced Hwoarang Lessons. Today we're going to talk about the most classic move. That's right, forward 2. This chop. And this chop doesn't come just from left foot forward. It also comes in left flamingo, LFS2, and right flamingo. So the only one who'll be missing out is RFF. But don't worry, you can always just cancel out of RFF to do forward 2. Or you can do a move in RFF to get you these chops. Whether that be anything that puts you in right flamingo stance. So like RFF 4, and then you do RFS 1. Or RFF forward 3 and then you do LFS2. Chops a quintessential mid, essentially. There's a lot of things this mid does. We need to go over every single one of them. So frame data right off the bat, it's the same for forward 2, LFS2, and RFS1. The only major difference here is that forward 2 and LFS2 will put Hwoarang in RFF, while RFS1 will put him in LFF. That's the only difference, right? Write that down. Next. So this move comes out at 16 frames. And it's +9 on hit. And then if you do it on block, it's -2 on block. You get nothing on counter hit for this move. Nothing at all. But yeah, that's the frame data of this move. So it's always like one frame behind. So let's say you do something like RFS... Or well, not RFS2. LFS1. You're gonna be at least +5. So again, that's what I mean by it's one frame behind. It comes out at, it's an 11 frame mid. The next up off the bat is options. What are we gonna do for these options? Because again, +9 is it's a nice frame to have, or frame advantage to be in, right? So like, what do? I made a whole video about it. Links in the description below. But essentially, what you do is you do forward 2, RFF D4, RFS1. Every single time, no questions asked. This is what you do every single time. Why is this something you do every single time? So if I do it off forward 2, that's my option. If I do it off LFS2, that's my option. RFS1, we'll get to that in a bit. That's the LFF version. But why? Number 1, your opponent cannot step this option. RFF DF4 is notorious. Very, very notorious for, getting step. It's a completely linear move. So if I'm at, let's say, +5 and I attempt it, no dice. If I do SS4 and attempt it, depending on like where the opponent's at, they can or cannot avoid it. So this has to be changed to sidestep right. And then the moment we do RFF DF4, gone. That's the point. Also, in other situations, let's say backdash, right? If I do RFS2, no amount of plus frames are going to save it. Not unless that plus frame is extremely high. And that only comes out on hit. So again, that was again sidestep left. Again, sidestep right. Nope. Turn that into sidewalk. They're not going anywhere. It really doesn't matter who you are. Even if you try to press an evasive move, it doesn't. Usually, 99% confidence will not go in. Also, the backdash. Your opponent can't backdash this. And if they backdash it, you're -7 if you don't hold forward. However, if you do hold forward, oh right, the whole sequence just can't even be backdashed. That's why it's your go-to de facto option and will always remain to be your go-to de facto option. So let's go one by one, right? So if your opponent blocks this, they have to eat this. The same thing. Can't step it, can't backdash it. And if they try to press a button, they're not going to beat it most of the time. So at this point, you have a whole mix-up. Number 1, the 50-50s on RFS. So if you're not going to go with the safest option to keep yourself in check, and then this whole layer on like -2 on block, we'll get to it. You can now stand switch down 3-4. You can hit with the 50-50, as mentioned earlier. And then, you can also just reset. Now, if let's say you confirmed that they'll never, ever challenge RFF DF4, and you're not getting as much mileage on, let's say, the RFS options or mix-ups options, right? Because even RFS F4 is going to lose to the backdash. Yeah, at that point, you can just say, hey, down 3-4. Now they really gotta wake up, right? Because they get hit by a forward 2, and now instead of like a mid, the one mid they don't want to get hit by, because even on counter hit they're gonna get hit by 2 back 4 or RFF 2 3. Now they get hit by down 3-4. Now you have a super safe 50-50. So I get this on hit. It's like I dare you on counter hit number 1, and then number 2 you'll never get away from me, and then number 3 I can always change this to something else, and then number 4, all right, you gotta watch your legs. It's just so good. And then, after that, if you want to play extremely safe, because why not? You can lock with an RFF2. Good stuff. You can do a DF1 mid-check. or DF1 plus 2 mid check, whichever works on the matchup you're playing against. And then down back 4 forward if you want to like keep it safe in the event that they block low and you catch them with, you know, toothbrush, RFS F4. Or you backlash. And this is a little tricky to punish. A little tricky. Why? So I believe I have backlash recorded here. Is it this one? There you go. So I'm gonna attempt to like punish it with while standing 3. So see if I get hit. I have to get hit, right? Get hit. And I have to go for a while standing 3 punish. There's no punish indicator there. Too early. Like they gotta practice this. That's the thing. Of course, your main concern is that if they 1-2 check, they can get an easier punish. I am being very, very late though on it. So forward 2 and hit, 1-2. Still not going in. So at that point, you're gonna have to like while standing 4-4. So like, it's a risk to press a +9 if they want to press a +9. And even then, like a DF1 will not cut it. So like only really fast moves will win here. So that they can still get this. The moment they press anything else, gone. So that's what makes, you know, forward 2 on hit or LFS 2 on hit so difficult to deal with. The down 3-4 and RFF DF4 alone is just like, what an amazing mix-up. Now, what if it's like, you know, RFS 1? Now, this doesn't get the option to do RFF DF4, right? So it's like, what's like my mid mix-up here? Well, number one is that you just follow up with forward 2. Why forward 2? Because if this hits, right? Let's say they attempt to step. I just connect back to the old situation over and over again. You see how you can just loop it over and over again? That's the sequence. And if it ever gets blocked, I'm fine at -2. Completely fine. But let's say they block it, right? So they block the mid. Or like backdash, right? So RFS 1. I'm good. Backlash is available to like continue pressure if I want to. I can still high crush, I can still low crush, blah blah blah. I can also, like, so if they're blocking F2, I can DF4 if I want more reward. Because I cannot JFSR. So if I put this aside step left, JFSR sometimes will not win here. That's against sidestep right. We're gonna now move it on to sidewalk left. And I'm trying to input JFSR as fast as I can. And yeah, see, it only beat one thing, sidestep left. So is that an option you want to risk? As much as you want to like get JFSR, right? You can also throw out, let's say, F1 plus 2 here. But of course, you have to put yourself in a -9 situation. It's the same thing with like throwing out DF4. And DF4 is just like, just being really, really sure, like, hey, you're not moving whatsoever, right? So like, you can always just stay with forward 2 if you don't want to like, if you're not too scared on like whether they're moving or pressing or not, or if you want like a counter hit knockdown or like a counter hit at the wall, if you got it at the wall, right? So that way wall splats. The other option, well, there's just none really. Like for the most part, you're really just gonna have to like stay safe. Maybe pray that they press a button, but most of the time they're not gonna be pressing a button. So you need to force them to press a button, and it's the same way you do it after LFS 2 or forward 2. You say hi, down 3-4 is here to like, come on, make a decision now, make a decision. And you can like tie it back in again. So like down 3-4, RFS 1. If they get hit by the RFS 1, I can do another down 3-4. I can do another forward 2 mid check. And of course, all the safe options are available to you. So if not RFF 2, you can always just do a basic 1-2 into right flamingo and then hit them with RFS F4. Or you can do like 1-2-3 into an LFS 3. If not that, down back 4 as per usual. And of course, maybe a DF2. But yeah, not against the backdash. Maybe against the side steps. Because they can't step that at -9. So if not DF2, the usual DF1 plus 2 and DF1. So what you're noticing here is that, of course, LFS or like going into RFF is far more deadly. That is true, 100% true, compared to the RFF version. But the right flamingo version will always allow you to like just go back to it anyway. So I was mentioning earlier, like the moment you get on block, it's still pretty deadly. Because why? Again, it's -2 on block. So at -2, you're kind of safe. Why? So I have options recorded here. So the first one is your opponent can whiff an option here. Let's say I whiff, punish. You can just hold back. If their move isn't long enough after forward 2, you're gonna get a punish. It's great. So they have to like, you can like wait for that and they have to like think about like their option on like catching you. The next one is that you can high crush immediately, right? They challenge. And of course, I chose down jab here, and that's gonna like eliminate even a DF1. No button for the most part. For as long as it's not like an evasive move, or they're not trying to like, you know, step around you. Like there, that was a clean step. You kind of like are dead there. But for the most part, if they ain't doing that, this is like fastest interrupt. And that's high crush. And that is, of course, other high crushes like RFF back 4, RFF back 3. Higher reward on those high crushes. Even RFF down back 3-3 if you pull the trigger. But for the most part, that's like your best interruption. And it's a high crush as well. You could also low crush. You could go do like, let's say, the orbital right after. If you're feeling it. An orbital, a neutral hop kick, L forward 4-4-4, and up forward 3+4 right after. That does low crush. The next one is, what? Of course, they can step. So the same thing, if you know which side, the weak side of your opponent, and like the options that they're pressing, right? So here DF2 is catching, so if I change it to something like DF1, that still catches. DF1 still be catching. How about a DF1+2? That be catching. We keep it simple. How about standing 4? There you go. So like against a more linear move, of course, again, it depends on the situations. Like you can like fine tune this a lot. And you don't have to like SS into like a small whiff punish. Like just simply stepping an option and like trying to maintain the positioning, really good. And of course, as always, the one thing that's really going to deter them a lot, backlash. So if they commit to an option and they can't block after it, that's their loss and not yours. Of course, for Hwoarang, this hurts a lot if the opponent is very aware, like they have a string with a low, or they simply mid-check you and then they punish. And that punish can get even worse. But there's a lot. And like you can just straight up opt to do nothing. Like the opponent has to watch this, and you can either just hold back and do nothing. They have to watch for your sidestep. They gotta watch for you holding back. They gotta watch for you like pressing a button immediately, whether it be high crush or low crush. And of course, they can't just challenge willy-nilly because backlash, right? So it's such a mid, like where, you know, it's such a mid. It's an amazing mid that, you know, there's just so much you can do on hit and then even on block. And on hit, you can opt to like not press a button. I don't really recommend that, but like for timing change, for like changing up the timings on your opponent, you could. But on block, it's just like, wow. You essentially, in quotation marks, don't lose out on much, regardless of whether it's on hit or whether it's on block. And of course, this move, while it's so amazing both on hit and on block, it does track towards like a specific side. So let's say I do LFS1 on block, right? LFS1 on block. Where does forward 2 track? It's towards the left. So if my opponent's stepping towards the left, I forward 2. All right. What if I do a jab on block? All right, we good. We just rock with that. Now they step in towards the right and I do LFS1 again. Yeah, again, tracks towards the left. However, if I do a jab, interesting. But again, you're 15 frame mid if you throw that. And if I'm like really close, still works. Now, if I am in, let's say, left flamingo, this one's where it gets a little bit tricky. Because this depends on like on block and on hit. So if I do something like LFS3 forward into LFS2, it will not track towards the left. However, it will track towards the right. Now, if I do this on hit, something changes. I don't know why, but it do be like that. And then that'll catch towards the left instead. So you gotta watch out, like lab that out. Or you can just check out the sheets, the tracking sheets I made for Hwoarang, and look at specifically the left flamingo situations, both on hit and on block. So, because the tracking for LFS2, a little bit wonky. Now, RFS1 though, that's pretty straightforward, right? So again, if you, let's say, do 1-2-4 on hit, right? Or 2-4 on hit. I mean, again, you're like plus 11, they're not moving. So let's change that to like, let's say, 2-4 on block. All right, loses to left, loses to right rather. And there you go. Sometimes be catching the left. Right. How about a different situation? Let's say RFF-D4. Right, there we go. But that applies to right, RFF-D4. I mean, against +7. So we need to look further. Something where our frames are Not as high, but still flamingo. Perhaps this. +4. LFS 4. So it still catches versus sidestep right. Against sidestep left, however, not catching as much. So maybe more SSR than anything else. Because usually, you're not thinking about the tracking for right flamingo. Why? Because you're usually throwing it out after down 3-4. So its main purpose, beside, let's say, the axe kick, is really more of another mid-check. So if you want to enter, let's say, a +9, rather than, let's say, a +8 force crouch, or a +1 on block, you're like, okay, I'll go for like a -2 on block, and I'm in LFF, rather than RFF. It's usually there to change up a lot of the timings, and to like check safely with the mid, because I believe the axe kick here is the one where, yeah, change that to walk. Yeah, there you go. It does lose to the walks. But this doesn't lose to the walks. Like, it's really just another mid. Like, oh, this didn't work, I'm gonna use this one. Same thing with like if you do RFS F4, you really just try to keep them there, and it's going towards the left. So maybe, again, case-by-case basis, cheats are gonna be in the screen. Links in the description below. But yeah, it does track reliable mid. Well, I guess forward 2 is like the easiest one to understand compared to like left and like the right flamingo versions. But the other thing that's easy to understand is that this is a combo filler. So like the B&B, right, is usually F4 RFS back 3 into Peacekeeper, right? If not that, you're doing straight into Peacekeeper. What happens if that's a little bit too difficult for you? Well, there's a basic. This, like, bro, this move's got your back. You just forward 2. You just forward 2. And this applies to almost every launcher. Whether that be natural launcher or a counter hit launcher. I can do it for all. You don't have to think. Like, this can be your starter B&B combo filler. Straight up. No problem. Any launcher, it straight up will fit. And there's an end. It can be your wall ender as well. Bro, like, what can this move not do? Very few things that this move. Maybe be 15 frames. That's my wish list for this move. I wish it could be 15 frames. That way, when you do, let's say, LFS 1, it's not 1 frame behind. It's literally 0. It's gonna track or like trade with a specific move. But yeah, it can be your wall ender too. So say use forward 2 as your combo. That didn't connect there, but this time it will. 1, 2. Wall ender. We're good. And you don't, let's say you don't even want to do the down jab after that. Say no more. An RFF 3. Ah, there you go. The old reliable. Always got your back. The move can do a lot. Both in neutral, as a combo failure, combo ender. Yeah, it's pretty good. So forward 2. LFS 2. RFS 1. This chop isn't going away. It's still in Tekken 8. And in Tekken 8, it's going to get a little bit more versatility. Because you can do like F1 plus 2 in RFF. You can do DF3 plus 4 in RFF. A lot of stuff. Down 4-4 in RFF. Of course, the LFS version is still the same. It's just that you have Ignition Barrage, DF3 plus 4. But again, getting too ahead of myself. We'll get to that stuff in Tekken 8 when we get there. But for the most part, one of the best mids Hwoarang has in his arsenal. Press this button. Well, I wouldn't say don't stop pressing this button, but like, this option should always be on your mind as a Hwoarang player. And even for the opponent, they gotta like worry about this mid. So on those mids where on block, we can make them think. Rather than like just simply surrendering our turn. Like, let's say after a mid check on like LFS back 4, like they can backdash after LFS forward 3, or they can sidestep after CD3 on block, etc. It's like one of those which is like, yeah, I'm kind of like Steve Fox or Feng Wei or whoever. I can like parry, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't necessarily parry. You can do that on, what do you call this? On RFS 1. That's an option. Can't do that in RFF. Yet. They ain't Tekken 8. So again, that's all the cheats I have for forward 2, the Taekwondo chop. I've been Frontier, and the next advanced Hwoarang lesson is always going to be on the other side of the screen. And I'll see you there. Thank you for watching.